everyone, Camilla here from Decodable Readers Australia. Today we're going to have a look at the importance of phonological awareness. We're also going to uncover the differences between phonological awareness and phonemic awareness and reveal the core skills that are required to learn to read. Now, we also as educators need to maximize our time, both as a parent and as a teacher. This knowledge is going to be handy. Now, as we dive in, we're actually going to use our kit. This is our Tune Into the Sounds of Reading kit, and this is going to help us discover the core skills and how to teach it. But firstly, let's dive in and have a look at what phonological awareness actually means. Phonological awareness is the ability to recognize and manipulate the spoken parts of speech. So now that we know it's spoken and it's part of our speech, we now know that these skills are done orally. So let's break it down a little bit further. I like the analogy of a funnel, how it's very open and large at the top, and it comes down and hones into the smaller components. So a funnel is how we're going to have a look at phonological awareness. We start with oral language. This is the broad term of being able to communicate in sentences with other humans. Now, oral language does encompass receptive and expressive language, which we'll break up very shortly for you when we have a look at the activities. But we need to see oral language as spoken sentences. Then when we break that down a little bit more, those sentences are broken down into words. And this is that concept of knowing a spoken word, individual spoken words. When we have a look at those individual spoken words, we can then break them down into something called syllables. Sometimes words just have single syllables, like the word cat and dog. Sometimes multiple syllables, like jacket or even computer. It's the chunks of words that we can break them down. I love to call them beats and clap them out with kids. From syllables, we have a look at rhyme. Now, rhyme is the end part of a word that sounds the same to another word. So, for example, bake and cake. The only thing that changes is the onset. That's the beginning sounds before the vowel. So, b and k are the two things that change, but we have the ache. That end sound sounds similar. Now, with rhyme, don't forget we are looking and hearing sounds, not at the graphemes at this stage. From rhyme, we can then hone in onto the most important part of learning, and that's called phonemes. We're breaking words into individual sound units. Now, this is the most crucial, the prerequisite to reading, and this is where we should spend the most instructional time. To begin with, we need students to be able to produce the sounds accurately and be able to isolate sounds within words, being able to isolate the beginning sound or the end sound or the middle sound so that they can hear individual speech sounds within words. Our next step is to ensure that those students can then blend and segment sounds within words. Now, what I mean by that is orally, can they blend some speech sounds into a proper spoken word? So, for example, if I say sat, can they recognize that those sounds blended together say sat, and bed? So it's about blending sounds together. And then the opposite, which is then used down the track for encoding, for spelling, is segmenting. But first we need to do this orally. Can they say a word and then segment it into its individual speech sounds? And obviously we start with very small words with 2 and 3 phonemes. So for example, the word fit has the sounds f, I, t. They need to be able to segment or break that word into individual phonemes. From there, we get to the more advanced skills of phoneme manipulation. That's being able to manipulate different sounds in words. And we can manipulate that by adding a sound to a word. So for example, the word be, now let's add ch at the end, beach. Or being able to take away a sound, a deletion, delete the sound. So for example, say swing, now say swing without s. Our new word is wing. And then we have the ability to manipulate a sound and swap it out. So for example, let's start with sat. Let's change our at to I. What do we get? Sit. And we can manipulate and swap sounds at the beginning, the middle, or the end. And the more advanced you go with bigger words and swapping all the different positions of those sounds, those students are really going to benefit when they get to the reading process. Now that we know all of the necessary skills that our young students need, let's jump into the tune into the sounds of reading and see how these can be implemented in the classroom. It's time to have a look at the individual skills in our Tune Into the Sounds of Reading Phonological Awareness kit. Let's have a look what skills made it into our kit. Now, the very first skill, although it's not identified as phonological awareness, it actually sits alone and is the most important. It's called oral language. To understand oral language as a concept, I like to use two terms. It's called receptive language and expressive language. What that means is that students understand the information, they are able to process that information and then express information as well. Now, we need to know that they're understanding accurately as well as giving or expressing information using the most accurate and correct syntax and grammatical sentence structures. Now, it's our job as educators and parents to develop this, and this really starts right from birth, being able to talk and express and help develop through paraphrasing and lots of conversations and corrections in the right manner and in a supportive manner. Now, once students get to school or even preschool, these types of activities can really come in. It's a picture prompt receptive expressive activity. Now, there's lots of pictures. You can choose one as an educator, and it has those questions on the back. Now, the tab even tells you how to actually respond using things like paraphrasing. Now, if you've got a child that may be English as second language, you can use the pointing of specific components in the picture to help prompt the receptive language and maybe even the expressive language as well. So as educators using this kit, we might choose a picture prompt. Just one in a lesson. We don't want to overwhelm them, and we don't want to give too many choices. Just one so that we can move really quickly. And the questions are on the back. Now, these questions vary in complexity, so it's really important to work through those questions. Let's have a look at the next skill that made it into our phonological awareness kit. Now, this skill is called sentence segmentation. This is the process where a child is able to break up a spoken sentence into individual word units. Now, this one-to-one correspondence is a key component when we go to the reading process. So it's best done orally first, and then through instruction time and when you're reading to point to the written and have that one-to-one correspondence. Now, sentence segmentation in your kit has a tab with the instructions and then these beautiful cards. Now, level 1 is about breaking sentences that have 2 to maybe 4 words, and then level 2 is 5 to 7 words. So let's have a look at one individual card. Now, you can see here we have our visual prompts on the front, and then on the back we have our teacher script, and they marry up so I can use my pointer and my thumb to direct where the attention needs to be. So let's have a look at this first one. This one says, listen to the sentence nice and clear. Count the words that you hear. Gnat paddles. Let's do it all together. Gnat paddles. How many words do we have? We've got 2. So you can see it's quite simple. So if your students already have this skill, you can bypass this or even try one from the level 2 of this section. Let's pick one here. All right, let's try this one. Listen to the sentence nice and clear. Count the words that you hear. Nat drives a big red truck. Let's do it all together. Nat drives a big red truck. And I would really guide that so that they can use all of their fingers to count and hear individual words, including those little words like and making sure they are counted individually as well. So that is sentence segmentation. This next section is called rhyme discrimination. This is being able to hear whether two words sound the same at the end, and also being able to produce rhyme. Now, these are great activities for your preschool level. Now, once students enter into school, you can do a few of these activities, but I highly recommend spending more of your instructional time on the phonemic awareness. Rhyme is not a prerequisite. It certainly does assist, but it's not the prerequisite to reading. So you can have a child that can't rhyme but still learn how to read. So it's really important to spend more time at that phoneme level as well as the grapheme level once you hit that level of school. Your kit contains an instructional tab. Now this tab takes you through the 3 different levels. The first level is having students hear 2 words and decide, do they rhyme or don't they rhyme? Now it's as simple as that. You've got 2 visuals and you say the words and then they have to tell you. Now, rather than just calling out or shouting yes or no, I like to do some sort of visual like yes or no. That way I can scan the room and do a little bit of pre-testing to see who's really understanding. Now let's have a look at those 3 levels. This first one, we use the visual prompts in each section, and once again we can put our fingers wherever we want the focus. Now on the back we have the script and the answer as well. So let's have a look at this one. Listen to the words one at a time. Can you tell me if they rhyme? Car, star. And that little script is on the back there for you. Now we just have the students respond like that. Car and star, yes they do. Let's put our thumbs up. The next level gives 4 visual prompts and the instruction asks what rhymes with a certain word, and they have to choose one of the pictures that will rhyme. So let's have a look at the script. Listen to the word one at a time. Can you tell me a word that rhymes? What rhymes with stuck? The word truck. So you can see the visual prompts will help prompt the answer. And the next level is about listening to the sentence and finishing the sentence to help it rhyme. So let's listen to the instruction and then to the sentence. Listen to the sentence one word at a time. Can you finish it with a word that will rhyme? A man in a... Now, a man in a van, a man in a cake, a man in a pie, or a man in a chair. What will rhyme? A man in a van. The next skill is called syllable blending. That's the ability to hear chunks in words and blend those chunks together to say one spoken word. This is really great at that preschool level. Now let's have a look. There's multiple levels within this skill. We have 2 syllable words and then we move on to 3 and 4 syllable words. So let's grab one card and hear the script. Listen to the parts nice and clear, blend them together and say the word that you hear. Jacket, jacket. So it's as simple as that. Now, if you feel that your students have already achieved this, there's no point spending instructional time. Move on quite quickly. Because this next skill is called syllable segmentation. It's just the opposite to blending. We're actually now going to pull apart the syllables. I like to call syllables beats in the classroom. So the script has the word beat, but you can call it syllable. All right, let's have a look within the activities. Let's hear the script. And once again, we can actually point if we like. Now we have to get the student to break up the word. Let's have a listen. Listen to the word nice and clear. Say the beats that you hear. Rainbow. And then I'll have the students repeat. Rainbow, and actually tap it out on their leg or tap it out on their arm or claps, depending on what you would like to set up in your classroom. This next skill actually starts at phonemic awareness level, the most crucial. And this skill is called phoneme introductions. This is so crucial that we get right from the start. This is the production, the manner of articulation for each individual speech sounds. So we've gone from those chunks, now we're looking at individual speech sounds. Now we've put ours in our scope and sequence order. You can reshuffle these depending on the order you would like to introduce based on the programs that you're implementing. We start with the most common consonants and short vowels and move to quite complex long vowels at the end. So let's have a look at the individual phonemes and what the cards contain. Now we have a visual prompt here, a mouth. So for example, this one is the sound. What I really love is that visual prompt, and it's important to always point and talk about your lips, your teeth, your tongue, airflow, and your voice. Now we have voiced sounds and voiceless sounds. So this one is a voiceless sound, and all that information is found on the back in a little table to tell you whether it's a voiced or unvoiced sound. Now what the mouth is doing and how to instruct students to produce that sound, and also the manner, whether there's friction happening in your mouth. Now I really love mirrors. Now what a mirror allows students to do is to look at the instructor and then look at the mirror to see if they are copying the articulation as well as the placement of everything. So we look into the mirrors and we'll say Now this really works when we've got the tongue involved. For example, the TH sound, we slightly pull out the tongue and go and we can do that into the mirror and see how far the tongue is pointing out of the mouth. For example, kids that go, it's too far out, just a little bit. And we can have a look in the mirror. So little mirrors are really great for phoneme introductions and for you as a teacher to be watching and correcting those individual speech sounds. Now also on our card is the ability to hear those speech sounds in words. So we're slightly moving on to phoneme isolation, and two of the picture prompts have that sound in it and one doesn't. So we're going to actually use the script on the back and see whether the students can hear the sound that we've just introduced in these words. So let's have a look. Does this word have the S sound? Let's listen. Sun. And we're hearing and we're discriminating whether that it does or doesn't. All right, let's try this one. Snake. Can you hear the S sound in snake? Yes, I can. So we can use those prompts again, yes or no. Can you hear S in the word ball? Ball. No, we can't, so we could do the cross there. Now on our consonants and short vowels we actually have the letter. Now this isn't important right away to introduce the graphemes, it's the focus on the phoneme, but it's there as a reference point, and if curious students want to learn about the graphemes, it's there as well. We don't put it on the long vowels because we don't want to overload those students' understanding of speech sounds first. That comes a little bit later. So in your kit, you actually have all of the 44 English speech sounds unpacked for you with a visual prompt, some visual images, as well as all the information that you require as a teacher or educator on the back. All right, let's have a look at our next phonemic awareness skill. This next skill is called phoneme isolation, and this is one of the most important skills when it comes to phonemic awareness and beginning that phonemic awareness ability. Now you can see we've got loads of activities. Now all of the activities in our box really start getting thick because this is where we need to spend the most instructional time. Phoneme isolation is when students isolate individual sounds within words. We want them to identify and isolate the beginning sounds, those ones at the start, final sounds, those ones at the end, and our medial sounds, which can be even harder because it's breaking that word apart and hearing the middle. So in these activities, we've got the different levels, beginning, middle, and end. And we do things like this. So we point once again to the picture and we've got the script directly on the back. And this is level 1, so this is hearing the beginning sounds. Listen to the word nice and clear. What is the first sound that you can hear? B. Our first sound is B. B. All right, let's try another one. Listen to the word nice and clear. What is the first sound that you hear? Cat. K. And remember that K is a voiceless sound, and we've learnt that from the phoneme introductions. K. This next skill is called phoneme blending. We're really getting to the nitty-gritty that is so closely related and crucial for the reading process. So this is where we take isolated sounds and we are blending them together to create a spoken word. Now this is done orally first, but also these types of skills can then be extended alongside the phonics introductions. That's the graphemes. So it's not just stopped at oral level, it's then continued using those graphemes. So let's have a look at phoneme blending. It's important to always start at 2 and 3 sounds first, and then you can introduce more sounds. So you've got your tab at the start to explain the activity, and then you have your visual prompts. So let's have a look at how we would do these. Now we've got 4 pictures. To make it a bit challenging, rather than pointing to each picture, I like to use the script. Say the sounds, and then they have to work out which word I am saying. Now, if that's too tricky for your class to begin with, you can point to give that prompt, but it's really important that they are orally blending and saying and hearing that sound before just guessing using a visual. So let's do one as an example. I'm going to start, well, you won't know where I start because I'm going to read a script. Listen to the sounds nice and clear. Say the word that you hear. P-ig. P-ig. What am I saying? Pig. Or let's try another one. T-ap. T-ap. Tap. So it's blending those isolated sounds together. All right, we're getting a little bit harder. This time, instead of blending the sounds together to say a spoken word, we take that spoken word and we now have to break it up. This is called phoneme segmenting. We are segmenting the individual speech sounds within a spoken word. Now, this is super important down the track when students are encoding. That means they're spelling. They have a word that they want to write, but in order to write it, they need to be able to pull it apart into individual sounds and then represent those sounds with letters. So the starting point is to be able to segment words at sound level. So this is called phoneme segmenting. You've got your instructional tab. Now there's multiple levels within these cards. Obviously we start at the basic level of segmenting 2 and 3 sounds, and then we move to 4 and 5 sounds. So let's have a look at one of the basic ones. So within this activity, we start with the visual prompts. In this one, I do like to point to the word. So we're going to look at this word. Listen to the word nice and clear. Say the sounds that you hear. Nap. Nap. This is where we actually have to segment those sounds. So I like to once again go back to the arm. Nap. N-a-p. They're our 3 sounds. Our beginning sound, n-a is our middle sound, and p at the end. Remembering that articulation is super important. P is a voiceless sound. We don't put that schwa, that p. We say p, nap. The next 3 skills come under the broad term called advanced phonemic awareness. This is that advanced skill to be able to manipulate those sounds within words. We need to be able to delete a sound, to come up with a new spoken word. We need to add a sound to come up with another new spoken word. And we need to substitute a sound within word to create a new word. This ability to manipulate and substitute sounds within words is advanced phonemic awareness. And these are the crucial skills of a skilled reader. So these are what require the most instructional time, and this is where we want success for our students. All right, let's have a look at phoneme deletion. That means we're taking away a sound and we have to process that to come out with a new word. So we've got our instructional tab. Now let's have a look at a script. And we've got some visual prompts for this activity. I like to just hold up the card and they have to decide which picture will match the clue. So let's have a look. Listen to the word nice and clear. Take away the first sound that you hear. All right, let's do it. Say the word stale. Stale. Now can you take away s? What do you get? Tail. Phoneme addition is just the opposite to deletion. We're going to add a sound. Now there's multiple levels within addition because we can add it to the start and we can add an extra sound to the end. So we start with adding it at the start and then we get a little bit more complex. So let's have a little listen at one of our first ones here. So once again, I like to show all 4 visual prompts, make it a challenge and see whether they can decide which visual prompt, which spoken word will answer the clues. All right, let's go. Listen to the word nice and clear, add another sound, and what do you hear? Say or. Now say or with d at the start. Door, and then we can point to that one or they could call it out. So we're adding an additional sound to the start of a word. Let's try one more. Listen to the word nice and clear, add another sound. What do you hear? Say and. Now say and with b at the start. What do we get? Band. So you can see we start with a real spoken word. We don't use those nonsense words. We use a real word and we add another sound to it and it makes another real word. So that is phoneme addition. We've got one last skill, the hardest of them all. It's called phoneme substitution. Now this has multiple levels too, and as you can see there's loads of cards in there to practice. Now we can substitute beginning sounds, so we do start there at level 1, and we can substitute the end sound, so we go to that in level 2, and then we can substitute the middle sound. Now as we move to graphemes, this is really important as well, and we can do things called word loops, which I will explain to you when we get to our sounds of reading toolkits. But let's have a look at phoneme substitution. All right, this is a one from level 1, and we can tell by the levels just at the bottom here on the teacher card what level we're doing. So we're on level 1. Listen to the word nice and clear. Swap the first sound and say the word that you hear. Say tuck, tuck. Now swap t to d. What's our new word? Duck. And there's our picture prompt. But once again, I don't point to which picture because I really want them to hear the word, swap out that sound, and then work out which word. Sometimes you can do these even without the visual prompts and just use the scripts on the back if you really want to get to that challenge level. So there you have it. You now have an understanding of these important and crucial skills to ensure that your young learners get the head start that they require and those necessary skills, those crucial prerequisite skills for learning to read. Now, I highly recommend that you jump across to last week's video, download that freebie, that's the assessment screener, to screen for these skills. That way you can really target what skills are necessary for your students or for your child. Then use this fabulous resource to really target the skills that they require. So email us at info@DecodableReadersAustralia if you have any further questions, and we can support your learning journey along with your students and your children.